Good morning and welcome back to my channel, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the video essays that I've been putting out so far because I've had a lot of fun not only putting them together and editing them, but it's been really informative being able to do the research for them as well as people's feedback for them because I'm a 23-year-old girl that has lived in America her whole life. I don't know everything in the world, will never ever claim to be an expert on anything. And that's what the intent of these videos was, I guess, because I wanted to be able to put myself out there and be able to learn more. I just want to thank you all for being here, and I hope you'll stick around because I'm really excited for this video today. We're going to be talking about this idea and, to me, the myth of finding yourself. As a kid, I would fall face first into all of my interests and hyperfixations, if you could call them that. They took over my life. My room was covered in little drawings based on my favorite books and movies. It was covered in trinkets. It was just covered in everything. And then, my senior year of high school came, and college. It was like I completely forgot about all the things that once brought me joy, brought me happiness. Instead, I would go to class, get home from work, and then I would essentially just scroll on my phone. The phone was an ever-present figure in my life, which obviously I can only speak from my own experience coming from that, but that's just how I was living my life. It was Jordan Teresa, I believe, say this: we essentially are just entertaining ourselves to death. Killer. Recently, though, I've started to dabble and force myself back into I hate saying the word force, it seems bad, but I made myself start participating in these hobbies again. And wouldn't you believe, they make me so happy. They make me feel fulfilled. They make me feel accomplished. Whenever I finish a video and I get it uploaded, I feel really accomplished. In America, we live in a work and money oriented society where making money is the most important thing above all else. It's always money this, how can we get more money? Money. So to me, it almost seems like people are working themselves to death in order to be present in their kids' lives. How many parents are missing dance recitals, academic competitions, sports games because they had to work, because they can't afford to take off? That's not normal. To me, that's really not freaking normal. Parents should not be stressing like that. Unfortunately, that is the society that we are currently living in. Hopefully, we do not always live in a society like this, but we do. And so finding a balance between it is key to finding a pretty happy life. And as somebody who I just recently turned 23, this idea of finding myself and finding where I belong in the world is so prevalent in my life currently because I'm in a very transitional area of my life, figuring out who I am, what I want to do with all the years ahead of me. But what does that mean? What does finding yourself mean? Is it like whenever you find your keys? What is it? In my opinion, it's really not that simple. I don't really believe that one day you can just open your eyes and understand yourself so fully and deeply that you know exactly how to live your life from here on out to continue that feeling. But again, that was my own opinion, and in this video we will be diving deeper into that idea as well as how social media has impacted the idea. Santomical asked for advice on the r/self Reddit page. They asked, how do you find yourself? I feel like I don't know myself and rely on others' opinions of me. I want to meet with a counselor, but before I can, what are some things that I can do for myself to know myself better? I also feel like I'm rethinking a lot of things about me after some new situations recently. There were a lot of replies, and most of them had pretty good advice, but the top one read, worry less about finding yourself and more about crafting yourself. Decide what kind of person you want to be and find out what you would need to do to get there, then do it. Now, for my opinions on this, I don't disagree with it, but I do find your friends' opinions and your family's opinions, if you're close with your family, I feel they do play a role in finding yourself. Coming from me, I almost consider myself an unreliable narrator when it comes to describing me and who I am, and so sometimes I find it easier. At the end of the day, your everyday habits and who you are, I feel, will shine through to your closest friends, to your family. I feel comfortable asking what my friends' opinions are of me and them being pretty on point. This is all nuanced. Everything's different for everybody. Everything's going to be different day by day, but don't discount the opinions of the people around you automatically. I just want to say that. And to me, again, very opinionated piece, but finding yourself finding yourself means to me that you have to understand why you were put here. You have to understand the meaning of life. Have we discovered that? Is that something that humans have figured out the answer to? I don't even know. Desert Storm 152 gave a pretty perfect answer about this idea of finding yourself. They said, you will never truly know yourself because your truest is the you that is in this present moment. And I think that really just kind of hits it home, because as humans, we are meant to be ever changing, ever evolving. You may think you found yourself today, but then you're going to have an experience tomorrow that's going to completely change your outlook on life. And all of a sudden, you don't know who you are anymore. Who you are today will never be who you are in a year. So all you can do is really live in the present moment. Stop stressing so much about the future, despite how hard it is in today's day and age to stop stressing about the future. In my personal experience, I sat and asked question after question. Why is life like this? Why am I like this? What am I meant to do with my life? I would ask and ask and ask, but I would never do anything. I would go home and I would sit on my phone and I would watch YouTube and I would do nothing. Like I said, I stopped participating in my hobbies. I stopped reading. I stopped drawing. I started creating. I stopped learning. And now, as somebody who just graduated college, I need to continue challenging myself, to continue learning, because I don't have that school form to do it for me anymore. And that's why I made these videos, because they're a way for me to keep challenging myself and keep learning. And not only just from what I find online, but when people comment from their own personal experience, or whenever they correct whatever I found online. Because we all have our personal experiences that I don't even know about, and someone that watches my video may. That's why I make these videos, because I learned so much. You are gonna find yourself and find so many versions of yourself. Like an ogre, onions have layers, ogres have layers. You're like an onion. You're gonna go out and discover all these layers of yourself by experiencing life. And that could simply be go to the park with your friends tomorrow and play a card game. Or if you have the money, go on a fun trip. Take off time from work. It could be reading a new book that's been on your list forever. Just go out and live your life and stop thinking about whenever you're gonna find yourself. Because you're gonna find those puzzle pieces of yourself as you navigate your day-to-day life. Everything you do to get through your day is what makes you you. I made a video recently about society, specifically in America, their stance on aging women and how they treat aging women, whether intentional or unintentional. And through this research, I actually found a lot of anecdotal stories of people finding this truest form of themselves in their older years. Honestly, wasn't ever something I thought about critically, but once I started doing the research, it was like, well, duh, that makes a lot of sense, right? That a 23-year-old would not have a full understanding of herself, but an 80-year-old who has lived a full life, has a developed prefrontal cortex, has lived many places, has had a full-time career possibly, has had a family, they're gonna understand life a little bit more, I feel like. Or maybe they're not. But in my mind, it makes sense. I really can't imagine anybody under the age of 25 sitting here and being like, I know myself, and then being correct. Because I thought I knew myself at 19. I was scrolling through Substack, which, if you don't have Substack yet, get Substack. When I saw this article, and it was titled, Find Yourself by Forgetting Yourself. It was by Bryce Stober. And I knew I wanted to include this piece and talk about it, because that title, Find Yourself by Forgetting Yourself, I don't know if he came up with it, but yeah, I like that. You've hit a wall. You have absolutely zero clue where you're going with your life, what you're doing with your life. You have no idea what's ahead of you. And in this piece, he describes it as you're lost and you don't know where to start. And he says you should build. You can build on your professional skills, your skills that have to do with your passion projects. You can strengthen your work, strengthen your relationships, collect hobbies, or you can serve others. You can go out and help others. And it's hard to, anytime you scroll on social media, which is very telling of society, but also it's not always how society is, because social media is such an echo chamber. And there are just so many times on social media when I see people acting very selfishly, and there are times when I've seen it translate to real life. And so those anxieties and those worries and those stressors, gather them and instead put that energy into doing something good for your community. That could be just a normal volunteering gig, like go work at a soup kitchen or any place that helps people around you. Or you could just do something as simple as go to the park with a trash bag and pick up all the trash. It seems like it doesn't do anything, but it does. Because as a part of that selfish society, and I find myself doing this sometimes a lot to. It's very transactional. As they say, go out, pick out trash in the park. What am I going to get from that? Well, you're not going to get paid. I mean, I can give you like a sticker, but what you're meant to get out of it is our planet is in shambles in a way, and you just picked up a bunch of trash. So not only are you helping the environment in a way, but you make the park prettier for the people that are going to use it after you. What do you mean? What are you getting in return? And that's almost where I found myself tripping up. And sometimes it's hard to control. Intrusive thoughts, whenever they just pop in, it's okay, like what are you supposed to do with? Whenever I find myself trying to go out into good things, whether it's for the community or for my friends or for my family, I always get this thought after I do it that's like, oh, good karma, getting good karma. Like I said, it's hard to like fight off your intrusive thoughts, but I should say, like, I'm not perfect. I think in that way a lot of the times too. But then at the end of the day, you're still doing the good thing. In America, specifically, where our government is actively not doing their job, doing the opposite of their job by harming its citizens in many ways, we've got to be the ones to look out for each other. This idea of finding yourself, it's a very dangerous mental loop because it very quickly turns into, who am I? What am I going to do with my life? To, well, then why am I here? And you need to break yourself from that. You need to completely take yourself out of that and stop worrying about it. Instead, you begin operating from a place of compassion and gratitude instead of fear and frustration. When I think about time, whenever I stopped losing interest in my hobbies, I was thinking, what changed? What in my life caused me to forget what once brought me happiness? And truly it was, I entered college ready to, say with me folks, find myself. I was ready to do it. I wanted to live this, it seemed like I wanted to live how influencers were living online, it felt like. I wanted to have this full life with a full calendar, full of events and activities, and always had something going on, always had my friends to hang out with. You know, obviously I would go out occasionally. I would go out to a bar too. But honestly, college was a blur. It was really blurry. I didn't do that. I did not have a full schedule all the time with all my activities and all the things that I was doing, because for half of it, I was totally in my own head, like I said, in that spiral of going from why are we here to why am I here? And if I wasn't spiraling like that, I was working 25 plus hours a week on top of my 15 to 18 hour course load. I was exhausted. I was so tired all the time. My feet hurt all the time. And so I used work as an excuse a lot of the times. And even now, like, I hate calling it an excuse, even if in my case it was a little bit, because I had time to go out and do things. I did. But I know in a lot of people's cases, it's not an excuse. It's very real of they can't do anything because work has taken over. And not because they want it to, but because they have to, because they can't afford to live a normal life without working these insane hours. And not that 25 hours a week is like insane, but on top of the fact that I was a full-time student and trying to have a social life, it was a lot. But I'm also glad that I was able to work there. Sorry to go off on a tangent because I loved working there. Like, not to shit on my old job, but it was exhausting a little bit. I would get home from work and I would want to go to bed and scroll on my phone. I would want to entertain myself to death. And even if I was hanging out with my friends, I would be quiet in the corner, off-putting on my phone. I think back to the height of my mental health struggle in college, and I'm like, wow. Like I said earlier, we would go home and entertain ourselves to death. We no longer need our hobbies, our friends, the life around us, because it's all right here. You need a friend to hang out with? Go look at your favorite influencer's account. You want to work on a hobby but you don't have the energy? Go watch somebody on TikTok do it. And I say we don't need our hobbies and our friends anymore very lightly, because unfortunately we're social creatures and we actually do need that, but we're acting as if we don't, and that's where the issue is, in my opinion. Addiction to devices and the internet and social media needs to be addressed, but it's also a complicated issue because what can you do? Just take social media away from everybody? That would not go over well. It's very, like, what do you do? More regulations. There's a lot of things you can do. Essentially where I was going with that, and the idea of social media and phones taking over our lives is I'm 23 now and I'm rejecting it. I'm still on my phone and on my computer and consuming this stuff all the time. But I've taken my first step in order to live my life actively rather than as a passive participant, because I feel that's what I was doing for so long. I just was kind of going with the flow and not in a good way, in a bad way. And like I said, I still have my moments. I'm not perfect by any means when it comes to stepping back from social media and, all this stuff that I've talked about. But if you're spending the time to put in the work to improve yourself, you can only go up from here. And like I said, I took that first step. I downloaded an app and I'm starting with Instagram and TikTok to really limit my time on it. Right now I have it set for 8 times a day for 15 minutes, and honestly I don't even use them all. So I think next week or the end of this week I'm gonna decrease it to like 5 or 6 times a day for 15 minutes. The only issue is though, I'll open TikTok because I have a recipe in there that I wanted to use, which I can write it down and then I don't have to open TikTok. Come on. And so I open TikTok and now I have this whole 15 minutes, and my thought is always, well, I don't want to waste the 15 minutes. Wasting 15 minutes. That's exactly what you're doing, actually. You're wasting 15 minutes scrolling on TikTok when you should just be making your breakfast. Like I said, when I came to college, I wanted to live as an influencer, it seemed like, because social media has made so many people believe that we need to have everything figured out right here, right now, at the age of 23, or even younger. The whole point is social media does not ever help with the idea of finding yourself. You're scrolling on TikTok and you see young adults your age or younger living in luxury apartments, eating at the nicest restaurants every night, buying all the nicest fashion pieces. They have what we could call a perfect life. Obviously, don't know these people, don't know what's going on outside of what they're showing, but what they're portraying is like a perfect, ideal life. And apart from the fact that a lot of influencers fake this and go into debt to live these lives, we need to be able to detach ourselves from thinking we need to be living like that, thinking that is a normal way of life for young adults. I needed to detach myself from that, thinking I was gonna go into college and like live this influencer lifestyle with me and whose money, girl, me and whose money. We need to rewire our brains and remind ourselves of the important things in life, because consumerism has convinced us that living in a nice apartment, eating at the nicest restaurants every night, buying all the nicest fashion pieces, consumerism has convinced us that's the perfect life, when in reality I would love to be able to invite all my friends over twice a week for an extravagant dinner party that I got to put together for them. I get to go out with my friends every weekend and not feel guilty about what money I'm spending. I get to sit on the couch and watch TV and not stress about the fact that I'm not hustling and working on my side hustles to get ahead in life. Our society has made it seem like we need to go. We need to always be working, always be thinking about how to make a profit. And I reject that. Can we not just try and live happy lives? Sitting in the sun, going on a morning walk, cleaning your room, because that is meant to be your sanctuary and you need to feel comfortable there. These are the little things that make me happy, I should say. For me, I've stopped consuming really big time creators. There's still a few that I do enjoy on the occasion, but I really don't. Most of the people that I consume on the regular, some of them have like medium-sized followings, but I love niche creators. I love consuming small creators' work. When I'm telling you, a video will come across my For You page and it has 300 likes, and sometimes it's a really well done video too. I recently found this online zine that I love. I subscribe to their newsletter and everything. It's called Dream World Girl. I'll put them down below. Start consuming things like this. Like, that is a real passion project that takes time and effort. It's got columns, it's got people writing for them, photo shoots. It's beautiful. I started changing what I consumed online and it helped a lot, honestly. That small step of just changing whose content you're viewing to see something a little more in line with your life, it made me feel a lot better and a lot less stressed and a lot more comfortable in my life right now, not thinking that I need to somehow I need to keep figuring out how to level up my life in a consumeristic way. Social media is an echo chamber. Obviously, this could just be what I'm seeing on my timelines, but I do feel as if people are waking up a little bit more. The start of it, I should say, because unfortunately, to me, everything is political. Everything is. And unfortunately, the reason why a lot of people don't have the time to take part in their hobbies and their interests and their loves is because of the way our country is set up and the way it's currently being ran, and the way that a lot of our government officials really don't actually work for what's best for the people, even though that's what their job is meant to be doing. The job is meant to improve life, find any and every way to keep citizens safe, happy, fulfilled. That is the job of the government. And unfortunately, in this country, the majority of politicians truly only care about money and power. And it's upsetting knowing that everyday people are putting in the work to be a better person, not only for the people around you, but for a future you. But it just feels like it doesn't matter because our country is so evil. What's the point of trying to be a good person if the only people being rewarded are bad? Is it social media companies intending for people to feel this way? Do they want people to sit and compare and spiral so that the only thing that they know how to do is work? Because they gotta pay rent. Yeah, I was spiraling a couple hours ago, but I gotta make it to my shift in 20 minutes. Are they just making people into a perfectly conformed workforce? Just some of my own personal thoughts and opinions. Lucky for us. As long as there are people that wish and care for a better world, that better world is possible. I recently watched The Lorax for the first time in a really long time, and obviously it made me cry. I was crying like a baby, and I just needed to include this iconic line from the Onceler. He says to Ted, "Unless someone like you cares an awful lot, things aren't going to get better." They're not. As a society, we need to really work together to give ourselves alternatives, it seems. In my opinion, as a society, we also need to do a little bit of the grunt work ourselves about what the internet has done to us, because the internet has taken a lot and we need to learn to live with it. That grunt work could literally just be what I did in adding time limits to certain apps. And it seems like it might be hard, but once I did it, I really started challenging myself that whenever I'm bored, really try not to go on your phone. One of the ways is I have this blanket that I've been crocheting since I was gifted the kit at 19 years old. About, I don't know, like a fourth of the way through. And I've been a fourth of the way through for 4 years. And so now, when I'm bored, I don't go on my phone. Okay. Sometimes I do. But sometimes I don't. And just that few sometimes is a win to me, because just 5 days ago, I'd be scrolling on TikTok the entire time. So it's a win. It's a win. See, it's little by little. And this is going to parents too. I hate blaming parents, because as exhausted as I was coming home from work and like now I have to be social with my friends, I can't imagine coming home from work and you got 2 kids to deal with. And so it is easier to just give them an iPad sometimes. But I am heavily urging parents to limit screens for your kids, and I mean heavily limit screens. From everything that I've been told, places like YouTube Kids are totally moderated by the creators. Whenever you upload a video, it says, "Is this for kids? Should we restrict it so people under the age of 18 can't see it?" And it's 2 yes or no questions, and that's it. Obviously, if someone put something really bad on YouTube Kids, I would hope that YouTube would have somebody with eyes on it monitoring it a little bit, but the initial moderation for YouTube Kids is very limited. And let me tell you, YouTube Kids is a hot spot. Like, that's where a lot of kids go. Parents, please keep that in mind if you're watching this. I am so far from a perfect person when it comes to limiting my screen time use, doing any and all of it. I'm actively trying to be better for myself. But not only am I trying to be better for me, I'm trying to be better for the generations ahead of us. Because anytime I think about the progression of social media and phones, I think about this book, which I discussed in my very first video essay. It really was the dang phone. These social media apps and phones and all of it, we consume them and scroll through them as if they're not a privately owned multi-billion-dollar corporations who only have their best interest in mind. I said it once and I'll say it again. They only care about a graph that points up. My stomach keeps growling, so I keep having to re-say my lines. When I was younger, I truly believed that one day, preferably in my early 20s, that I would find myself. I would find her, and I would be happy, content, fulfilled for the rest of my life. Now, at 23, I'm realizing, which is probably not some revolutionary thought, that that is just not how it works. From the day we are born until the day we die, I believe we should always be learning, always. And learning any sort of new information, knowledge, is always going to bring the chance of change. And so like I said earlier in this video, you may have known yourself yesterday, but tomorrow you're gonna have a life-changing experience that completely alters the way you see the world. And all of a sudden, you don't know who you are anymore. But that's not a bad thing. It is not a bad thing to not truly understand yourself, as long as you are actively participating in your life. In American society specifically, we have a lot of powers working against us, working against the people, because multi-billion-dollar corporations will always want more. They're always going to want more money, more labor, and if that means quite literally beating people down into complacency through social media, they'll do it, especially now with the governments at their back. So as I've said in I think all of my videos, we need to come together as communities in order to protect ourselves, protect our loved ones, give ourselves alternatives in our lives, and we need to do a bit of that grunt work and undo what the internet has done to us. Phones and technology have been so normalized in our life that people don't even really dance in the club anymore because they're afraid of being like filmed and posted online. It's small things like that. Phones have altered the way we live everywhere, and we need to take back our lives. We need to take them back, because to be honest, I just want to experience the 2000s club life, and I can't do that if people aren't dancing because they're afraid they're gonna be filmed and judged online. I found this graphic, I think on Substack again, that offers a lot of ways in order to feel calmer, feel clearer, and more you. They said, you don't need to spend hours of free time to feel more like you. These 5 simple habits are quick, doable, and help you reconnect right in the middle of real life. Number 1 is breathe before you scroll. Whenever you wake up in the morning, take 3 deep breaths before you go on your phone. That's it. It doesn't seem like a lot, but those 3 breaths today may turn into 5 tomorrow, and the next day 8, and then 10, and then sometime down the line, you get up out of your bed and you don't even check your phone. Number 2 is anchor with one rhythm. Choose one simple daily routine, essentially. It could be a morning stretch or even just making yourself tea. Just taking one simple daily routine to center yourself again. And kind of piggybacking off of that, create a 2-minute rest spot. Pick your go-to place in your home, like your favorite place maybe, and whenever you feel overwhelmed, stress, or maybe you're just, I need to recenter. Go to that spot, step away, and breathe, even if it's just for a minute. Presence over perfection is the one that I've really been trying to actively add into my life, because as I touched on earlier in this video, I was such a passive participant in my own life, which caused me to miss out on a lot, especially in college. And so it's almost, I was too scared to go out because I was scared I wouldn't be perfect. But you don't need to be perfect. No one expects you to be a perfect person. I challenge you this week to be more present, whether that is in an event you're going to or just a conversation you're having with your friend. And finally, count your contributions for the day, even if it's just one. At the end of the day, sit down and think about all the ways you not only showed up for yourself, but you showed up for your home or your friends. Whether that was you emptied the dishwasher, or you deep cleaned the whole house, you made a dinner for your friends. It could be small or it could be big. Let those small contributions be enough for your life. You know, at the end of this, I didn't really actually go into this intending to take the stance that finding yourself is a myth. Honestly, the whole initial point of this video was just gonna be growing into adulthood, and then as I began kind of looking things up and watching some videos and reading some articles, I realized that life isn't that simple, and that unfortunately it's never gonna be simple. Even if we had the best government in the entire world, it would probably never be simple, because humans aren't simple and our emotions aren't simple. They're very nuanced and require a lot of conversations. At the end of the day, we are forever evolving, and we should be forever evolving, because we should always be learning new things. We should be learning and growing and changing so we aren't repeating our mistakes. Unfortunately, our country seems to be doing just that. You can only work and try, and so that hopefully things can get better. I thank you guys for watching. I know this piece was a little more opinionated rather than a essay with facts and pieces, but I thought of it growing up and how it's a weird phase of your life, and just wanted to hit home that if you don't have everything figured out today or even tomorrow or even next week, it'll be okay. You don't need to have everything figured out. Just figure out what you're eating for dinner tonight first. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I don't know if I've ever said this, but if you guys ever have any requests for me to cover, feel free to leave it below. I also want to say, if you hear my stomach growling at all throughout this, I apologize. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.